Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. Welcome to this short session on enabling sales leadership via data insights as part of the Sales Enablement Festival, uh, October 2020. Firstly, a big thank you to the Sales Enablement Collective team to have me here and invite me to share my experience on the topic. A quick few words about myself. I'm Vishal Salonke. I've been in the sales operations arena for the last 15 years or so. Started off in a local Indian global services integrator company called Tech Mahindra, and from there on have learned the ropes and climbed the ladder across different software companies and its product business, hardware business, services business, as well as in logistics companies, and more recently, e-commerce. In terms of the region of experience, I've mostly been based out of Asia. More recently, for the last three job stints, I've been managing different businesses across most of the countries across Asia Pacific. But back in Maersk, I also had some level of flavor and experience on running the business, as well as working very closely with sales leaders based out of EMEA, and also get well versed with some best practices from that region. In terms of the different skills and experience that I've acquired over these past 15 years, started off initially in sales analysis and reporting, and then from there on got into more value-added parts of sales process, sales tools, CRM rollouts, getting into sales enablement side on the sales playbook, coaching, value selling methodologies, as well as managing compensation plans, designing compensation plans, and even go to market designing of price books, designing of territories, working on market segmentation, and more recently into kind of COO or chief of staff roles for executive leadership, running big P&Ls, and being their co-navigator or co-driver, and helping them run the business in the right way. Quick brief about the company I currently work for. That's Carousel. Carousel is a very well-known brand in Singapore. It's one of the fastest growing e-commerce classifieds business, and has been in Singapore for the last 8 years. But what a lot of local people or most of you wouldn't know is Carousel now is more than 10 countries, all the way also into Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and also has a lot of other brands in other local regional markets like Muda in Malaysia, Chotot in Vietnam, and One Cat in Myanmar. Um, so that's about me and the company I work for. Let's move on to the topic of today. So let's also get into the context of why insights and enabling sales leadership is so important as of today. Sales operations as a function has gone through quite an evolution, I think, since the time it started in early 1990s. For those of you or old folks like me, if you all remember, in the early days, sales operations just came out as a fulfillment or a support function to carry out administrative tasks to help support sales teams, sales leaders to kind of increase their productivity by taking away some tactical administrative tasks that were very low end of the spectrum. But as time evolved, as you got into 2010s and mid 2010s and teens, um, the function itself started evolving and maturing over a period of time with increased complexity of sales and volume of data into specialized skills. And that's where you saw sales operations as a broad function getting broken down into analysis and reporting and forecasting, and then experts on sales commission plans and design, and then experts of enablement folks and sales enablers and tech enablers coming in, people who are super experts on price book computations and rollouts and so on and so forth. And that's where I think we currently are, or most of the companies are, where we are at the cusp of this maturity curve, where we've kind of almost matured at, in terms of our capability or sales operations as a capability. Where we are now is where sales operations team have become a competitive advantage for companies. So this is where we as sales operations professionals or leaders or analysts or specialists attached to a specific part of the business have an important role to play to provide actionable business insights and not just be data providers, but be in the co-driver's seat as the navigator to your business leader who's in the driver's seat to make sure you're constantly on track of your goals. Um, Zooming in into the same evolution journey, if I have to only look at sales analysis or data reporting and what I'm today referring to as insights, part of the business or metrics, has also been kind of the same curve with early 1990s, just being into data entry and probably giving out that data on a timely basis during reviews. And then came in the early CRM systems like Siebel CRM, PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, which initially were just about reporting on your pipeline and win deals and lost deals. That slowly then transformed into more complex and better CRMs, or the ones we know today, which are the cloud-based CRMs like Salesforce or Zoho, where even more and more data around your activities, around your calls, around your sales meetings, and more data started getting captured around accounts, around renewals, and a lot of other things. With that, where we came to, or where we are again, like if you remember from the previous slide, is sales operations is now owner of a lot of fancy dashboards and data and reports, but from here on and forward, we can only be more value adding if we can derive business insights out of that data and preemptively and on a predictive basis and on a timely basis keep giving those insights and tidbits to your business leaders, so that you are constantly on the goal. So the next part of this presentation is how do we go about doing this? One of the first points, or one of the first recent trends that need to evolve and change is around what I call as visual insights versus data reporting. As many of us know, sales operations team are known to provide weekly reports, quarterly reports, monthly reports to the business leaders for them to make decisions. But with the constantly evolving volume of data and complexity of sales, as you saw in the initial curves, it's quite important that now you don't only just provide data, but also start interpreting that into right insightful means. So this is a very good example of when back in the day I was asked by any of my sales leaders to pull out a report and some level of trends for the last 1 year for some upcoming QBR or year-end analysis or a review of the sales leaders. And this is all hunky dory. It has all the details per sales rep per month. It has all the dollar numbers of what matters, which is sales. It shows trends on a monthly basis. It shows a pie chart of who's doing how much. But what we used to do in the past is just give out this data and let the business managers digest it, or sales leaders digest this and take their own decisions and review. But what should change now is first on the visuals itself, and second is the data you give out. As you all know, with the big volume of data that we are providing or that's available to different business leaders, it's quite easy for them to get lost and or have a low attention span in terms of what exactly you're trying to give out. So what's really important is you give out key parts of that data in a very insightful and a visually appealing manner that registers. It can just be something as simple as this slide, as an exec summary with key parts per quarter of what's changing, what's not changing. If it's going up, is it going up in a healthy way? If it's going down, is it part of seasonality and hence it's going down, or is something off and something that we need to repair and solution on? It should also be very, very tight in terms of your content points that are being given out. It should be highlights, lowlights, help required, rather than just giving the entire data mart or the full download of the data that comes out. So to give you a use case from one of the software companies that I worked in my recent past, I joined as a business operations leader to the VP of the business for entire Asia Pacific. And when I joined, the business had evolved over time organically. They had built their own cadences, tools, reports. And a key part of the business review was QBRs. But over a period of time, organically, what happened was the QBRs became a mammoth exercise of data. Given that this was a business with its own P&L, there were various data metrics around sales, around revenue, around deal size, around attach rates, around NPS, and whatnot. And that meant about 50 to 70 slides per sales leader. And they had to first, of course, create that content and then present it for the previous quarter in the next quarter's QBR. Given the amount of content and given that we had 6 leaders for the 6 regions in Asia, this was 50 slides into 6 individuals presenting that to the leadership across Asia every quarter. This also meant that you were spending so much time in creating these slides that you only ended up presenting them around the second month or the end of the second month of the quarter for a quarter gone by. The first thing I changed was change the entire 50 slides format into a single slider of one small table on the right, showing all the 50 metrics that you want to show in that table with actionable points and arrows and traffic lights in terms of showing what is green, what is yellow, what is red. And on the left, every leader came up with the key wins or highlights, what's not working, and then help required that they needed from the leadership team. And this also helped us to move the timing of the QBR or reflections within the first or second week of every new quarter for the past quarter. So that's just an example of how you can evolve over a period of time of from the previous practices of sharing huge mammoth data reports and dashboards into more actionable, more brief, more succinct, insightful numbers or slides or a single slider that still adds the same value and at the same time improves productivity by heaps and bounds. The second most important part after you've managed to kind of see what makes most sense in terms of presenting your data is to also look at what kind of data are you actually tracking, what kind of insights are you looking at. A big part of the past roles that I've seen is sales operations professionals usually get caught up too much into just the sales data. So to make sure that your business leader is most supported in taking the right business decisions is to give them a full 360-degree view of all the metrics, which I call as health metrics. It can be commercial metrics, it can be P&L metrics, it can be legal, functional, HR, hiring, whatnot. But what we shouldn't do is just keep reporting on sales attainment numbers. And instead, just to give you an example, if you want to look at a single salesperson, look at their end-to-end metrics to see, fine, they're getting in business, they've met their last 3 months of targets, but are they doing it the right way? Are they healthy enough to keep doing it for the next 3 years or 3 quarters or 3 months? Depending on your sales cycles. So then from that context and that example, what becomes extremely important, just as a few examples, is to not just look at whether the salesperson is meeting their numbers or the sales team is meeting their numbers, but it's also important to see how profitable is the business, what's the monthly growth of the numbers in terms of month on month or in terms of last year, the same month to this month. How are they doing in terms of their pipeline quality for future looking numbers? Are they on track? What's their productivity like? Are they meeting enough clients in the day? Are they meeting less? Are they meeting more? If they're meeting too many, are they getting burnt out? Should we give indicators to our business leaders to make sure they maybe hire more people and given that there's more demand? What's their win rates and loss rates like? What's the average cost that they're getting in? What's their overall contribution to the business as an average sales per head count kind of comparison? etc. So this becomes an extremely important part of managing and giving out insights to your business leaders as well. A good example that I can think about is, again, in one of the full P&L businesses that I supported as a business operations leader, where we had a lot of these metrics. Even though our business leaders or regional heads or territory heads met their numbers, we still used to do what we used to call a periodic body scan, or going through the entire health of the business, and do an audit every few months, or a quarter, once a quarter, to see how they're doing in terms of any issues around hiring, around NPS, around attrition rates, around overall metrics versus key averages across other parts of the business or from other territories, etc. Another example in even in Carousel that we do is what we call as a weekly business review. That's again works exactly the same way. It's more like a body scan and not necessarily a solutioning call or a review call or a surgery. It's purely just going through the different parts of your body to see if everything is in the right health, if there's any green, yellow, red indicators. If there are any yellow or red or week on week changes, then you call it out, and then you give actionable execution plans or tasks to different business owners to make sure that they are on top of it. So this is more of a proactive approach of looking at your entire business as a whole in a 360-degree frame, rather than just looking at commercial metrics or your revenue or sales at the end of every quarter or month. This, as an example, is a topic extremely close to my heart as well. This is very similar to situational leadership or subjective leadership. The key thing here is, especially what I've seen as trends, is in bigger companies, as you get bigger and bigger with more volumes of data, with bigger number of sales associates and hence many sales teams, is to get into a mode of standardization, which is extremely good from an organizational perspective, but may not always be extremely good in terms of decision making by individual leaders. What you have to understand is every leader is extremely different. Everyone has their own personality. Everyone has their own way of working. Everyone has a different set of tools that they use to make actionable decisions and make business decisions. From that perspective, while it's okay to have standardized reports in terms of doing reviews for one business leader across different territory leaders, etc. At the same time, when it comes to having or giving out data or reports or dashboards or building any kind of metrics, always try and understand your leader a bit more. Try and see what kind of a leader are they. Are they very hands-on on the latest tools, reports, or reading insights? Or are they still an old school type of leader, carrying a diary and a pen and taking the notes from every meeting there? And depending on that, you come out with what's the best level of insight, or the best complementary level of support that you can give to your business leader to make sure they are successful. And this is extremely key, because usually we try to at times get into an assembly line kind of a mode where we are just distributing the same reports that we've been giving out to one team when we move to another team, or when a leader transitions, or a country GM changes from one to the other. We are still set in a mode of what worked for the previous leader is exactly what I'm going to give to this leader. Instead, try and understand their way of working. Try and understand how they work the best, and then complement that with the right level of and detail of insights and data that's required. The final topic of the day is an extremely good segue from the last topic of subjective insights versus standardized reports. This topic is predictive preemption versus reactive support. So as sales operations professionals, we've always been in a mode of working via cadence and process, which is supplying a certain set of reports, dashboards, data, or even insights in a very cyclical assembly line mode, rather than doing it on a preemptive basis based on what your leader needs. So this topic talks about getting into a mode where you start preempting what is the different level of data, detail, or insight needed for one specific forum or a meeting or a review that your executive is going to attend. It can also be in terms of a new go-to-market. It can be in terms of health of the business. It can be in terms of some big speech or like I said, certain seminar that the executive is talking in as well. So this is where you become the ultimate business partner, or like I said at the beginning of the session, a chief of staff or COO as a well-rounded 360-degree insight source to your business leader on a preemptive basis. But what that also means is you need to come out of your silos of just looking at sales operations data. Or this may even mean you start looking at the business as your own business and start the only way you can preempt key indicators or key things that your business leader or exec might need is by looking at that business as your own business. And these parameters or KPIs or insights or data or details can be anything and everything from a 360-degree perspective required for the success of the business or the business meeting its goals. It can be about market, it can be about product, it can be about hiring, it can be about day-to-day tactical operations. At the end of the day, it's not necessarily only pertaining to sales data, and that's the silos you need to step out of and come out of and start looking at things. One, of course, in a more broad manner, but two, also get into the shoes of your leader, get into the shoes of a CEO, and then start preempting these different things that your execs might need, and also start supplying to them even before your leaders are asking them from you. Finally, in summary, being a gearhead, I'll keep going back to my cars or racing analogies, is that we started off as bystanders or as volunteers to the different races, moving on to a role of one of the few people who are giving key insights or key numbers as part of the people talking to the race driver through radio, or from then on, we are now in a situation where you are the co-driver as part of a rally race right next to the rally driver, and a very key part of making sure the car doesn't crash and burn, because you will crash and burn with it, and taking that level of accountability and ownership, and hence being that guiding force, being joint in the hip with your sales executives, to be then moving from not just reactive to proactive, but from proactive to predictive, and thus supporting your leaders in a very well-rounded way of providing insights for them to take actionable business decisions. And as this partnership, you as a team, as a business unit, or as an organization end up achieving the goals you've set out for. So with that, we move to the Q&A round. So I'll just pause here and open it up for all of you to ask any questions. Questions already on the chat. So let me start with the first one. First one is from Liron. Again, $1 million question. Where do you draw the line between sales enablement and sales operations? So, Liron, the answer is subjective to every company in industry, to be honest. But if you ask me, my personal opinion, and I like to live basis Wikipedia knowledge, but surprisingly, in this case, it also aligns to the way I define it, or the way I have seen it, or the way my current department is structured. So in that definition, sales force enablement is a subset of sales operations. So sales enablement is a team that's the qualitative side of sales operations that will help literally enable your salespeople to be more productive on the field, to be enabled on the field, they to be fully adept of your product knowledge, of your value proposition, of your sales pitch, and having them prepared for that customer interface is what the sales enablement team does. And the foundation of that obviously comes from a lot of content and data, which is also the process side of sales operations. So that's a generic answer. Having said that, in many companies, including my previous one, as soon as you start getting into specialized sales roles, so if you're in a tech company, your enablement then becomes a more specialty technical based enablement, and hence you have specialized principal architects kind of roles that are in charge of enabling your sales associates or your your solution architects and those part of the sales teams who then form the whole part of the value proposition. The second question is sales key health metrics. How are you measuring pipeline quality? Now again, the generic answer to this will always be with the basic markers of how many days since the last state change, what's been how many times has the compared to the average sales cycle, how many days has the opportunity been won for, and previous win rates, lose rates, etc., loss rates, etc. But since you say how are you measuring, I'm going to answer it literally the way I measure it, and which is again comes back to one of the points I mentioned, which is very subjective in terms of every single leader from under whom the pipeline I'm measuring, or a salesperson under whom the pipeline I'm measuring. So to give you an example, when I was running APAC across the last job that I did, every country, the culture has a lot to show or talk for the pipeline quality of that country. So when I'm dealing with the sales head of Japan, everything will be followed to the T. So if a sales cycle is 3 months long, the sales cycle will be 3 months long. If commit means 80% probability on Salesforce, that opportunity will be marked with 80% probability. And on the extreme other end of the spectrum, if I have to look at South Asia or even Southeast Asia, emerging markets, the pipeline will be literally 20% of your quarter's target till 3 days before the quarter end. And then suddenly out of nowhere, you'll have rabbits out of the hat and showing you that hockey stick that typically happens at the end of the quarter. So which means when I'm reporting on the health of pipeline, which is then helping me derive the forecast for my overall roll-up, I'll always have my own judgment added, what we used to call as management judgment as part of the pipeline quality to do that. But of course, again, depending on the context of your question, if you want the textbook definition, I guess it's exactly what many sales CRMs are defining it now. But my definition will be a subjective one. The next one is, how do you measure the performance of your sales enablement officers? So this is again a good question, Irina. Thanks. I think it's very simple again, given that, like I mentioned, my definition of sales enablement in a generic company, which is not specialized selling, is based on how well the salesperson is trained in terms of making sure their sale is complete and the sale is won and the pitch is perfect and they have the most perfect value proposition defined for them, etc. So my KPIs for my sales enablement officer starts through the entire cycle of a salesperson joining the company, onboarding. So how fast is the onboarding done for every new person that joins? Are we catching them young? Are we converting them to our value proposition, our brand early? These are the things I'm measuring my sales enablement officers on. And then on that curve, how are they performing? Are they meeting their targets? Were the targets met because of some lack of enablement issues or training issues, and how do we fix them? Continuous feedback loops with the sales managers. From there on, then it's about we've got them on a winning spree. Now, how do we keep them there, because the targets keep going up? From that perspective, then the sales enablement officers are also in charge of external trainers in terms of like today's unprecedented times, making my sales enablement officers responsible for making sure they bring in external trainers to talk about how to do virtual selling, how to be relevant in today's time, how to make sure you get your sales appointment when there's no, or you do a sales close when there's no face-to-face connection, so on and so forth. So that's basically what I look at in terms of kind of some of the key KPIs for my sales enablement officers. Lisa is asking, you've been part of a number of sales teams. In your observations, what happens when leaders exclusively focus on lagging indicators like win rate and deal size versus more qualitative behaviors that drive sales success? That's an amazing question, Lisa, something close to my heart. And when leaders focus exclusively on any one type of indicators, I think they are driving blind. To my analogy of when you're driving a car, or when you're a driver in a rally race, you have to have your eyes on the in front on the windshield. You have to have your eyes on the rear view mirror. You need to make sure your navigation path, if there's going to be a turn 300 meters down the line, and you're doing 120 kilometers per hour, you need to know how soon and when to make that turn. So if you're only looking at one of these aspects, imagine you're only looking at the rear view mirror and driving at 120 kilometers per hour. That's going to make you crash and burn. So that's my answer. Over focusing on any single indicator, whether it's leading, lagging, or qualitative, is going to be detrimental to the success of your business. It has to be a well-rounded, subjective mix, depending on the situation, business, industry, and timing. Like today, like COVID will have everything that was textbook till 6 months back thrown out of the window, because everything is so subjective today in terms of how you do the sale, how you evaluate your trends and your averages and indicators. Last question, what software do you recommend for predictive analytics? Same question to get more meaningful historical insights. If possible, I'm curious to split this answer for the teams that have a more basic data skill set and those that are sophisticated. So to be honest, I have not seen a single sales analytical tool that's really good for predictive analytics. I've seen a lot of predictive analytical pitches on business data. I haven't seen any on sales data yet. So the ones I have used in terms of BI in the past have been a mix of Tableau, reading from data marts coming out of Salesforce, as well as a lot of other business KPIs and measurements that are fed also into Tableau, and then churning out that data. I've also used a lot of old school analytical tools like business objects, but I haven't seen any single metric yet. Sorry, any single tool yet that can just in which I can feed my data, just sit back and throws me all the key insights depending on the latest trends. So at least that's my answer. Yeah. All right. I think that was one of the last questions. Sorry for running 3 minutes over. Thanks everyone for joining. It's been great having you all listen to me, and keep in touch on LinkedIn. Cheers. Good night, and have a good day.